Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is the OurTurf Football Podcast. I'm Dana, and that's Lisa, and it's just us tonight. Kate might be joining us, but apparently tornadoes came through her town today. She has no power. I guess if you live in Ohio, I hope you were all safe. It was not pretty there today. So Kate, we love you. We're glad you're okay. But no power is no power for sure. The other thing, Sonia got a day off. Sonia, she has held it down this year, this summer. She was all about it. When I was gone, when Lisa was gone, when Kate was gone, Sonia was our constant. So we are like, hello, take the day off, take a breath. So thank you so much to Sonia for sure. All right, everyone. Well, so football officially started this week, Lisa.
Oh my God.
And you know what that means? Our weekly show started. So
yes,
before we get started this week talking about the Hall of Fame and talking about the games coming up and talking about some questionable teams, we of course want to give thanks to our sponsor, Donkey's Place Cheesesteak. This is our third or fourth season with them. They are fantastic. They've been sponsoring our podcast, so you guys don't get stuck with a bunch of commercials every single time, every 3 minutes, like another commercial. It drives me crazy, but we want to thank them for sponsoring our podcast. Of course, they have 3 locations in New Jersey. We have Camden, Mount Holly, and Medford. Look at me.
Yes.
Very proud.
Look at you.
I need, it's funny. I should have it written down like on my laptop. I don't. It's off memory. Just because
I remember because I'm starving. I haven't eaten yet. And now and we show the pictures of their award-winning cheesesteaks. And oh my gosh, they're mouth-watering.
Even if you don't live in New Jersey, you can still get it. Obviously, goldbelly.com. Look up Donkey's Place Cheesesteak. We have done this multiple times. You guys get it in 24 hours.
Yes.
It's fresh. It's delicious.
It's fresh.
It's amazing.
It's delicious.
And it's so different from your average cheesesteak. So we want to thank Donkey's so much. Thank you guys. And hopefully, give them a like on Twitter or say hi from Facebook and tell them the OurTurf Girl sent you. All right. And Camden says, Camden is the easiest to remember. You're absolutely right, Camden, for sure. All right. For those of you watching over on Twitter or over on Facebook, come over to the YouTube channel. We have this great live chat feature where we interact. We want to know your thoughts. And this is a very opinionated show, this week. So come on over so we can hear what you have to say. Because this week, Lisa, we're first going to start off. We're going to talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame game and how that went. We're going to talk about some injuries. There were quite a few injuries this week, so we've got those covered. Then we decided as a group that we really wanted to discuss teams that have, I hate to say underperformed, because a couple of these teams have not underperformed, haven't gotten to where we expected them to be. These are teams that are insanely talented. They have all on paper, as we say every year, Lisa, on paper, it looks perfect, and it never works out for them. And we want to talk about why. We're going to talk about a few of those teams tonight. Lisa, how have you been? You had a little hurricane come through your town.
I did. It just skirted us, which was good. My daughter was in the middle of it, so that was a little nerve-wracking. I tried to get her to come over, but it was just a minimal one. Down here in Florida, we're used to. It was just more of a big windstorm and rain. But, flooding's always concerns, and certainly, looking after our sisters to the east of us. So, but, communities always come together. So everything's good. A lot of people have power already back on. So yeah, but yeah, it's a little bit of a nervous tension. And I've got all these farm animals. I tell you, I can't. Whew. I have some flying chickens.
It's so funny, Lisa, because you and I have talked, because hurricanes to me sound really scary and tornadoes to you sound really scary. Where to me, I'm like, oh, it's just a tornado, just walking down the street. It's so funny about where you live, how the different things, affect you that way. But,
right.
Yeah. One thing that did affect all of us was this year's Hall of Fame induction ceremony. The ceremony is great. First of all, poor Canton, Ohio. I don't know if the weather could have screwed with them any more than it possibly did. The game had to be, basically abandoned because of weather.
Yep.
And it wasn't a bad game. Like,
it wasn't a bad game. I have to tell you, I don't know if I am just that ready for football. And I always do it every year. I mean, it's like, but I mean, they're lights out. They were playing lights out. We all got a nice taste of the kickoffs. I'd like to get your opinion on that, what you kind of thought. I think for me personally, it's going to take me a little bit getting used to. I mean, I think I got the rules down pat of it going, it's not, I like the idea of them having to actually have a job Your job is to kick it into this little triangle area. So at least you might get a little bit of run back and get, field position depending on your special teams blocking, which I kind of like that because it makes the kickers have a dang job. You just don't have to kick the ball out of the end zone.
Right.
It's like you have to literally try to kick the ball in the, in that space. And then, if it goes into the end zone, good God, what, 35-yard
30, 35. I think it's 30. Yeah, what they wanted 35 and the owner said no 30. So what's interesting about that is next Tuesday, we are going to go over all the rule changes. We're going to go through them for everyone. I wanted a full week of seeing them on the field so we could actually really get a taste of it before we get kind of into them too deeply. But it is really fascinating, the changes and the conversations being had. I heard a great conversation today on SiriusXM NFL Radio with Dan Quinn about just that kickoff and how he really thinks it's actually going to help the team kicking off. And it's really interesting to see the different perspectives. So we're going to get into that next week for sure. But the Hall of Fame game, it was pretty good. You could tell that there were kids out there really trying to make these teams, and it was a little more entertaining than traditionally. We've seen some really bad ones over the last few years. But then you had all the Hall of Fame inductees that too had to be pushed back because of weather. So that always makes it hard on the fans that are there. But yeah, it was great to get to see in. I will tell Camden, we love Camden. Cam's a little opinionated. Says, I don't think Andre Johnson should have been admitted to the Hall of Fame at this rate. Anyone can get in. Okay, this is all I'm going to say. If Andre Johnson can get in, that means Marshawn Lynch, who was eligible next year, can get in. And that's all that matters to me, Camden. That's all that matters to me. And let me just say, I'm going to tell you right now, Marshawn Lynch ends up in if Marshawn Lynch ends up in the Hall, you're going to see full Crazy Dana for 3 days. I can't even wait. I'm so excited. Can't wait. I know probably won't happen next year if we're being real honest, but I like it because we got to get that other Manning brother in there. So anyway, but this year's inductees, loved them. I loved all the defensive players. I loved, their speeches were wonderful. Their busts, none of them looked crazy. They actually looked like the players. So that was good. So
I love that too. I love that too. I mean, they went to, and it was so interesting because the one that really threw me that I watched a little bit of was, of course, Devin Hester's, and he's got that nice haircut now, and he had the it was
direct
cool.
Support.
I liked it. I liked
it. That was so good. So already, that one is in the books, and we are looking into games are Thursday. Like I think there's 2 games Thursday, 3 or 4 on Friday. I think there's 8 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. It's going to be fun. It's going to be, oh, Brendan. Look at Brendan. Full Crazy Dana. Is that different than normal? Actually, it really is. It really is. Fan Crazy Dana. I only do that for certain players. Marshawn Lynch is one of them. Let me just tell you that. Thank you for the comment. It's fair enough. It's fair enough. So, all right. So let's get into some of these injuries because we have a lot of conversation to have about these other teams we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So I have them all written down. Some pretty big ones. So we have the Cardinals, BJ Olari, injured reserve for his knee. That is a huge hit for the Cardinals. The Lions, Emmanuel Mosley is now questionable with a torn pec. That's going to be a while from everything.
Those torn pecs, right?
Yeah, they do not heal or quickly. Lisa, you're right. The Jags have Eric Armstead. He is out this week with a knee injury. I think they're also babying him along for a little bit. The Chiefs got a list, but are they worried? Nah, they're not. So they have Justin Reed is out with a quad. They have Charles Omena. I always say his name wrong, and I'm so sorry, Charles. He's put on the PUP list. They have a couple of others that are questionable or out. The Rams, Tyler Higbee is out. He's on the PUP list. They figured that was going to be that way for a while. The Patriots sent 2 to IR this week. They have Tyrone Wheatley Jr. and Jake Andrews. They both went to IR. And then San Francisco, Malik Turner went to IR. There's a few more that are on there, but there's some big ones. And so that's just the luck of the preseason, right? We see that happen every single year. It seems to me, though, this year so far, knock on wood, whatever we got to do, it's not been quite as bad as last year. I seem to remember, Lisa, and correct me if I'm wrong, last year, those first 2 weeks, out. They were ACLs tearing left and right, if I remember correctly.
It was especially when the pads, when week 1 pads go on. Yes. I think that's when you see it. But, we'll get to a couple teams. I think one of the teams we're going to talk about is Buffalo and some of the things that happened in camp that are happening in camp. These are intense camps that are going on right now. I don't know if it's just the reporting that's coming out, but
everybody's fighting. If you're
everybody's
in New York,
fighting.
you're fighting.
Everybody's fighting. I was going to say that. It's like, wow. I don't know if it's like they're just, has the sense heightened because, you only have a couple preseason games to get it done. So you're just, even in the pads are off, you're still going 110%, which a lot of these veterans are not happy about. So it's interesting because it seems like we get into a persona every single year if something's going on. And now it's like these camps are intense.
And it's like full-blown fist fights, not just shoving matches. Like the Giants Lions, it's like WWE out there. And I put on our OurTurf Twitter, I'm like, why y'all so mad? Like, what
is going on?
And God love Big Red, one of our regulars, he on the show, he said that the Giants are sick of losing and they probably are hearing about it. Well, I don't know if that's going to change much this year, but we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen there. But it was interesting. Yeah, it's been interesting. And then the Jets, I think, got into it today. I'm like, what the hell? And then I know they all ready to go. Apparently, they're all jacked up, ready to go. All right, Lisa. So we wanted to spend the majority of this show talking about really 4 or 5 teams that have been intriguing to me. And I've been looking at them in the off season. I've been hearing a lot about them. You hear a lot from their fan bases. We hear about from the media people and what's wrong, what's happening. And these are teams that the 4 of us came up with a list of teams that aren't performing as the total of their parts. Like their individual parts are so talented. There's so much going on with this team. They should be so good. And they're falling short. It's been really interesting to me. I want to start with one, and I think this is the biggest one, Lisa. I got to get my notebook out because I got all my notes. And I am.
All right.
And it is not going to be a surprise to anyone. It has been the topic of conversation for probably the last truly 4 or 5 seasons, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys on paper should be Super Bowl champions. On paper, they are very talented. They have this is the history though, and this is really interesting because believe it or not, them and San Francisco have been kind of close. So it's been since 1996 that they've been to an NFC championship game. And that was the same year they won their last Super Bowl. Dak is 2-5 in playoff games, but still considered one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Right. It's a team that's worth $9 billion. It is considered the has the highest value of any North American team. I can't really compete with some of those soccer teams, in Europe, but in North American sports, this is the highest. They have only been the number 1 seed in the playoffs 2 times since 1996.
96. I was going to say the 90s, right?
Yeah. What is interesting to me is there's lots of argument about what is wrong with the Dallas Cowboys. Is it Jerry? Is it the culture? Is it that they're one of the cheapest teams in the league? They are always consistently to the bottom of spending in the league. It's not their talent. They have that in spades. Is it coaching? Well, no, you can't blame all this on Mike McCarthy because this was happening prior to Mike McCarthy. He just didn't make it better. Lisa, when you look at Dallas as a whole, and this was not something I came up with, this is actually something I read. Do you think that franchise is okay with just being relevant instead of winners?
It doesn't seem so because we wouldn't be having this conversation because I think when you talk about them being relevant, I think you're just something you're getting used to because it's like every single year we start off with contract issues with the Dallas Cowboys every single year. When you go back into the 90s with Jerry Jones, it's hard to say, how can we say it's Jerry? He brought how many Super Bowls to the Cowboys? But look at the Cowboys when that happened. They started with pretty much no names: Aikman, Smith, Michael Irving. They didn't have superstars. Yeah, we had like Roger Staubach going, Danny White, those. But then when they built the nucleus of the Cowboys, which were, around the Aikman years, I don't remember having so many issues of contracts. I mean, I'm sure we did because I think they got paid, but it just seems like the last decade of the Cowboys have been every single time we go around we went around Romo with contracts. We went around, now we're going around Dak with contracts. They've got a whole boatload of problems. When you look at three Cowboys that you got to look at CeeDee Lamb. He wants to get paid. Dak Prescott wants to get paid. You're going to have Michael Parsons coming wanting to get paid here soon. And then what do you do with Mike McCarty? Like you said, you don't have a very good track record right now in the playoffs. You have an older Jerry Jones, who people question, and like you said, is it Jerry's world right now? What are we doing? You stand behind Dak. Dak wants to get paid. I mean, we saw it come down with Tua. We saw it come down with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he's going to be in that nucleus of that range. That's what he wants.
Sure.
Look at our quarterback rosters right now. There's not much out there. So,
well, and that was a great point that was made too, is that like they have to pay, their number one priority has to be CeeDee Lamb. They have to pay CeeDee Lamb no matter what, right? You have to. You have maybe another year of Micah Parsons. I think he has one more year before
but then he's going to be an issue.
He's going to be an issue. They've lost a lot of talent because of money. They haven't really brought in the free agents, another money issue. And then you have Dak. It's not like there are quarterbacks. He is a talented quarterback. Is he elite? That's a debatable conversation other people can have. But it doesn't matter because there's not a replacement there. Unless you bet the farm and give away all your draft picks to get up high for one of these rookies that is a question mark, you have to pay Dak. And the interesting thing is, I think that this has become invasive of the culture. It used to be people wanted to play for Dallas. Players wanted to wear the star. They wanted to play. And there's still some players that do. But at the same time, I just feel like they've lost a little something. So Kristen says, not America's team. I'm relieved they aren't what they formerly were. I kind of miss it when the Cowboys were good. I don't like mediocre Cowboys, either be really good or really bad. But at the same time, I feel like they have so much talent and I don't want that talent to be wasted. And then what do? They bring back Zeke. It's like, okay, got the band back together. It was a little strange. So I think those are some definite question marks with the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones, I think, is 81. You can't tell me he doesn't want one more Super Bowl before he's done with this planet, right? And so how do they get there? Well, they're going to have to spend some money. They're going to have to go and convince some of these players that they can do this. And I don't know that they have that right now. We'll see. It bugs me. It really bugs me because it was so fun. In chat here, we have Darcy. He says, Dallas supposedly the most talented team every year the past decade plus, especially if you listen to their fan base. And Michael Irvin and ESPN. Yes, we do hear that a lot from Michael Irvin. They do have the talent individually. You look at each player. They never form as a group. It never works out that way. And it's too bad, truly too bad. It's crazy. Lisa, one of the teams also that we had discussed was the Buffalo Bills.
Yes. And the Buffalo Bills, and it's going to be right around the nucleus of our discussion that we have. How good are they going to be without Stephon Diggs? Is it going to make a difference? When you look at the intensity of these practices the last 10 days and what you're seeing coming out of Buffalo, they are really intense. They're one of the teams that almost had a full out team brawl. Josh Allen was not happy with his coach, with any of the defense situation that went down there today. The defense brought it. They did like a scrimmage practice, and the defense was all over this offense. Even so, as far as getting one of the wide receivers carted off. Andy Isabella had a collision, and after it, they had to keep some media away because Josh Allen wasn't having any of it. So the intensity levels there of like looking at, Dawson Knox, had some great, I mean, they as the practice went, coaches had to start calming things down because it almost got into one of those backyard football games that you see, they were going
elbows flying.
They were going at each other. It turned into, defense started really pushing the offense, did a couple of things. Offense started kind of pushing back. So it wasn't Josh Allen didn't have a very nice day today. And he didn't have a lot of nice things to say about what happened there today. So it like I said, that's what you're talking about Dallas. I mean, I'm with the Bills because is that the rollover from all this frustration of getting so close? Because good God, you're so close. I mean, look, 2 years ago, you're 10 seconds away from the Super Bowl.
10 damn seconds.
Can you fathom that?
Here's a question I have for you, Lisa. So with Stephon Diggs leaving, do you think that they saw that as a sign that their window is getting tight? Like that they're like, we didn't bring more play. We lost him. Now, granted, you can have your opinions about Stephon Diggs. I know lots of people don't like him. I know lots of people are like, he goes from team to team to team, good riddance, whatever. Think what you want. He's still a great receiver. And I just feel like for some reason that was like the first nail in the coffin for some of these players. Like, it's like they're nervous now, but they are such a talented team.
Personally, I think it's going to help. I said since last year. I said it since last year. Something they hushed it up real quick, but he was not happy from day one last year, and I think it just rolled over. And I think when they went through the little issues that they had, I just think it was just more of a locker room issue of divide. I just think it was. Because it's we know how toxic one player can be, and not saying he's a toxic player. He's a passionate player. He wants to win. There's no doubt. I mean, when he went out on that field after the Chiefs game, he wants to win so bad. Yeah. So it's hard to say he's a toxic player. It's just disruptive player. That's what I'll use. He's a disruptive player.
In good and bad ways. 100%.
Yeah, I think he has his own philosophy on the way things should have been done. Sure. And we know how it is when players want to start acting like coaches, and I'm open every play, coach. I'm open every play. Of course you are. Yeah, so it's like I said. So I think Buffalo is going to be a better team without him. He's a talented wide receiver. I understand that, but I just think that the less distractions for them and the more they can focus on playing football, I think they'll be better.
It's really interesting. So a couple of comments from chat. So we have Kristen says, I feel bad for Bills fans. They're a team I'd love to see rise. Crazy that it's wild over there at the moment. That's the funny thing.
Let's not get crazy, Kristen. Let's not get crazy.
Oh, now listen, you're talking to Lisa in your division here. But there's a good point. Most, not all, most fans were like, come on, Bills. Like, where'd you come from? Remember a few years ago, everyone was like, we love this. Good for you. And they just could not turn that corner. We'll have a conversation of why here in just a couple of minutes, but it's just really interesting. And then Brandon says they're in a rebuild. Well done, Brandon. I like that pun.
They're not in a rebuild.
No, build with a capital B. They're the Bills. So yeah, very funny.
No bill intended. Right?
No pun intended. But I do think that they are one of those teams that it wouldn't surprise me if they could catch that lightning again, but it's going to take it I don't know. It's a little tough. Another team that we have talked about forever, Lisa.
Yep. You're going to say it. You're going to say it.
We say it every year.
Every year.
Want people to go back and look at our prediction shows that we do, our pick'em show. And every year we're like, all right, Jacksonville, damn it. Here you come. You got the greatest coach. You got a great team. You got a quarterback with the flowing hair and the sunshine. And what do? Like,
I mean, good Lord. I mean, but you got to understand, this is a team that we want to boot over to England so bad. It's about ready to kill everybody, right? I was like, they're going to England. They're going to be the first franchise over there because things got so bad in Jacksonville. People just weren't going. And, I don't know if they're still going, honestly.
They are. It's so much better now, right?
Okay.
They making a fancy new stadium. And here's the interesting thing. You, the quarterback people, love Trevor Lawrence. You like the way he plays. He's a prototypical prototypical pocket quarterback, right? He
Right.
he
should be good.
He should be what every team wants. And granted, the first couple years they went through coaching disaster, and so we gave him that, right? You've had Doug Peterson for a couple of years now, and they can win games and win them strong. And then they forget to get on the bus to go to the stadium. Like it's so bizarre to me. They've made some good changes this year, but I just still expect a lot from them.
Yeah, but you got to understand when they're on the rolls, you got to keep it fresh. You got to keep going. And when you look at the Jags, it's like you'll have one great game. Inconsistency killed them. And and that was just the whole thing. Whether Trevor was hurt, and like I said, we always hear later on down the line, well, I was playing with a hairline fracture in my foot. I was playing. It always seems like that.
Like, damn, kid.
Right? I mean, he got beat up a little bit. They got some work to do. There's no doubt. I mean, some of those games he was running for his life.
They had a good draft.
They got to get it together. And every year you pull for the kid because, like you said, he's got all the goods. He's got, everything going for him. And, and then now he's got that big contract. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of, they're going to put the pressure on him this year. This is it.
Yep, put up or shut up, kid.
For real.
Big Red says Trevor needs help to do what he does best. I agree.
What does he do best, though? That's the problem. When
Lisa, you should answer that more than
I do. That's what I'm saying. What is his best trait? That's when I always look at it. I can tell you what
to be Eli or Peyton Manning.
Josh Allen's is. I can tell you. I mean, honestly, I can tell you what Dak is. I can tell you. I honestly can tell you that he's one of the better role quarterbacks. He's like Tannehill. He goes straight, but then once again, just like Tua, crucial moments.
Yeah,
turnovers. He forces the ball. Tell him he's got a great deep ball. He's got great talent. To me, there's not one thing this kid does better than anything except read defenses. The kid can read defenses until he tries to press the ball.
So I think that's a coaching issue. So then you go back to Doug Peterson, who we all agree is one of the better coaches in the league.
Was a quarterback.
Yeah. And so is that the part that's missing? Is it the line? Is it that, I mean, there's a few question marks, but I do really, truly believe that it is just a few missing pieces and they just need that consistency, maybe just one more year. So a couple of comments. Like I said, Brandon said turnovers.
Exactly.
And then he said Stingley Jr. will help him with that. And then Big Red says Trevor was a dual threat, but in the NFL, he's got mature in timing. And I think that's what Lisa's talking about with inconsistency.
Yep.
Is that but now you got a big boy contract, kid. Just like Dak, you got to put up or shut up. I don't think Jerry will pay Dak until Dak wins him another playoff game, or there comes a time where, and I'm going to talk about this other team here in just a second, but where you get to the point where you're like, okay, prove it. We all keep thinking you're this good, so prove it. And this actually is not one that we had decided to discuss, but it was brought up actually by Darcy from our tweet earlier. We're like, hey, are there any teams that you guys want to talk about? And he brought up the Chargers and Justin Herbert. So that team was something that they just couldn't quite get it. They had the talent. They had Justin Herbert, we knew was good. They had all these things going against them, including their division. That was definitely going against them. But this year, they're going to bring in evil Harbaugh, right? And so I think that's going to be the biggest thing is what can he do? And then Herbert gets hurt. Oh God, don't get me started. And so I think that's going to be interesting to see. Was it just the coaching the whole entire time?
You hit it perfectly. You've got two proven coaches now. We all knew what Harbaugh brought to the NFL. We know he's a hell of a coach. We know Doug Peterson's won a Super Bowl. He's a hell of a coach. You have two ex-quarterbacks, head coaches that have two supposedly every quarterback's dream, these pocket passers in both these guys. So injury-wise, if Herbert's 100% healthy, Trevor's 100% healthy, it's going to be a great comparison when we get down the lines in December to talk about those two teams and where they are.
I think you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. All right. So 2 more teams that we wanted to talk about, and we'll talk about them quickly because I think they fit in this conversation, but they also are outsiders of this conversation. And that is the San Francisco 49ers and the Baltimore Ravens. And the reason that I say that is because they have reached the pinnacle of success, right? San Francisco's been to a couple of Super Bowls. Did they win them? No, that's a conversation. The Ravens made it to the AFC Championship game. What'd they do? Ran headfirst into Patrick Mahomes. And so and then the year before that, they lost their quarterback to injury. They're at the time was on pace to be MVP quarterback. And so they aren't quite where these other teams are. And yet there is still something missing. You talk about San Francisco, again, another team, 1995 was the last time they won a Super Bowl. It's been a minute, right? However, they keep getting there. They just can't turn that corner. They have an insane amount of talent. They are also injury prone, as we have talked about on this show 1,000 times. They can't seem to finish these games, and they always have, much like Dallas, contract issues going on. Brandon Ayuk, I'm so sick of that kid's name after the last 2 days. Just trade him already. Be done with it. So the conversation then was interesting. After their last Super Bowl loss, Nick Bosa, and I wrote this down, said he could have done more and the rest of the team could have done more. And that didn't sit well with me. One, because I don't like Nick Bosa, but two, because if you really feel like you didn't leave everything on the field, that's a problem. Now, small mistakes, things you can't out of your control, that's a whole different conversation. But I didn't like the way he worded that. And maybe I was just taking it different. But I thought that was interesting. Then you go and you talk about the Ravens just a little bit. Again, just a couple years ago, AFC Championship, lost in 2023, lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously. So you look at that, once again, an insanely talented team, excellent quarterback play from both San Francisco and Baltimore. No matter what you think about Purdy, but I'm just saying. So Brandon said they could have done one extra point more. Yes, that's exactly what they could have done more for sure. So it's interesting to me that these two teams, both full of talent, fantastic coaching, even Shanahan. You have the good Harbaugh, not the evil Harbaugh. It makes you wonder. And this is my theory is that once you hit the playoffs, there's so much luck involved, and both these teams have been on the wrong side of luck. What are your thoughts, Lisa?
Well, I like it. I like your thought. To me, when you looked at the 49ers, and the same thing when we talk about players and contracts every kind of year, it seems like there's one rogue player that, wants to go. And, and I 100% know he's going to get dealt. I think they're just trying to find the best deal for them. And then I think then we'll get that defense. When I think of 49ers, I think of defense. They got there on that defense. And and we talked about it. This was an offense against defense game. That you think of that.
Don't get me started, Lisa.
Don't get me started. But it's a different animal when you get to the playoffs. And when you look at what happened with Tom Brady, every single time anybody got to playoffs, you were going through Brady and New England. The same thing's happening with Mahomes. You get there. You just got to climb that mountain and beat the best. And right now, it's road's always going through Kansas City. And
absolutely,
I think the NFC is a little bit more wide open to where you could see maybe a team like Dallas pop through. I think it's more. I think when you look at the AFC and the quarterbacks compared to the NFC, I think NFC, I think defense, AFC, I think
quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks. Yeah. And when you get in there and these guys play, so these guys are veterans that are getting here. They should know better, right? I mean, Harbaugh's been there. Both of them have been. Shanahan's obviously been there. These guys, Andy Reid, there's nothing. We're not going to see any surprises. We know that because it's these guys know it. Now, do they get a little bit conservative in the Super Bowl? Hell yeah. We saw it with McVay. He went totally away from everything that worked that year, and it's like, come on. And so
annoying.
It is annoying, but it seems like we're constantly talking about the Ravens, the Cowboys, the Bills. I mean,
the shoulda, coulda, wouldas.
The shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And it's like, are we going to see a dark horse this year come with all different things going on? I hope so. Like you said, I'd like to see
somebody
some
new.
new blood. Mm-hmm.
So we got quite a few comments. So I'm going to bring those up. Darcy's like, it hasn't been just with Herbert talking about the Chargers. It was with Rivers and Tomlinson too since 2004. Been to the AFC Championship just once. Yeah, we always talk about how Rivers couldn't finish.
You had Brady.
I know.
You still had Brady.
So then Big Red says he's still salty about Carolina got rid of McCaffrey because of the success he had in San Francisco. Me too, Big Red, for sure. And then Big Red also called him Darth Harbaugh, which actually I really like. And if I steal that, I will give you full credit instead of evil Harbaugh. I do make me happy. Cute. So Kristen has a good point. The Ravens fans are optimistic, not outraged like the 49ers and Cowboys fans. I'm a Ravens fan and it's still fun to be one. And I do think that is one of the differences. That the understanding of, and I'm not saying San Francisco fans don't understand this. I'm not saying Dallas, don't come for me. But what I'm saying with Ravens fans is they knew where they were headed and then Lamar got hurt. They knew where they were headed and their tight end, I think last year got hurt. And so I think that's why they're like optimistic if everyone can stay healthy. And that's why I always say, get to the playoffs. A lot of it is luck. Brandon said about your climb the Mahomes mountain, it says, and don't tear your Achilles on that mountain. That is very true. Mm-hmm. And then this is really good from Big Red. Patrick Mahomes is this generation's anchor person. And that brings me back to this. You talk about the AFC teams. And once again, and this must be frustrating for AFC teams, you have the juggernaut. You have the one no one can beat in the AFC. Mm-hmm. It's not the NFC, it is the AFC. And so whoever can take that person down feels like they should be able to go further, but then they run into them again. So, the Bills can beat the Chiefs. We've seen them do it in the regular season. They can't do it in the playoffs. The Broncos beat the Chiefs last year, right? Like it's anything is possible. Once you get to that playoffs, you run into, just like everyone did with the Patriots for so long. Just now you have Patrick Mahomes there too. It doesn't last forever, AFC fans, I promise you. Look, it took only 20 years to get rid of Brady, but we managed to do it. So that's
and then the year that he tore his Achilles, the Dolphins won the division because he was out.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
just that close. Yeah.
And
for sure.
Ravens fans, Bills fans, to me, are in the same boat. You got two fantastic quarterbacks. You already know you have a team that can get there. It's got to be frustrating to hit that mountain because it's like every single damn year. Because hell, you know how I love me Lamar. I wanted Lamar back down here so bad.
I know you
would have traded the farm for him because I wanted that. I wanted that feeling every year of knowing that as long as Lamar stays healthy, you're going to make playoffs every year. I'm going to tell you right now, I guarantee you're going to make playoffs every year with him.
And there's always a chance that you can jump that hurdle. It is interesting. So are there any other teams, Lisa, that you can think of? I mean, I feel like we have a lot of up-and-comers. We have the Texans are up-and-comers. I think Green Bay is considered an up-and-comer the way they ended last season. You have a few of these teams here who are kind of the upstarts. I'm real interested to see what the Falcons will do this year. But really, it's just that handful of teams we talked about that are kind of those perennials.
Right.
Really? Not again. And so it'll be interesting to see what adjustments will be made, if any.
I'm just looking forward to the dark horse. I'm looking for that team out of the AFC that we're going to go, wow, we really didn't talk about them much. That's
the Texans last year.
That's going to come up and kind of make some noise. Because when you look, and who can beat the Chiefs in the playoffs is going to be the biggest thing and stuff like that. And when you look at AFC teams, could a veteran quarterback unseat him? Aaron Rodgers, maybe, if we get down that far with him, who knows? I mean, it's exciting going in because so much can happen. You certainly don't want anything to happen to Patrick Mahomes.
Nope.
Anything to happen because you want to beat him full straight. So
fair and square.
You want to beat him fair and square. But God forbid if something happens to Patrick, that's the whole AFC
doors open. Wide open. I am. Let's see. This is interesting. Brandon put in the Lions should have steamrolled, but they fumbled it. Let me tell you, the Lions just were damn good last year, and they're going to be damn good again this year. We have Kristen's like the Seahawks could be a surprise. No. Kristen, as I keep saying on every podcast I go, hell if I know, because no one knows what that coach is going to bring. Big Red says Atlanta better be better with them, better be good considering the money they spent on quarterback. But here's the one team, Lisa, you know who I'm excited to watch this year?
Who?
Indianapolis. I want to see what Anthony Richardson can
Yeah.
do. That should be a good team. It should be fun. So I think that might be my dark horse pick this year.
Yeah, because we're not talking about them that much. We really aren't. We're really not talking about it because we don't have anything to go off yet because of what happened last year. And now it's like, okay, well, here we go.
I know. All right, you guys. So next Tuesday, right here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, 8 p.m. Eastern time, we are going to talk about all these rule changes. I want to see them for this whole first week. We're going to see this kickoff rule. We're going to talk about some of the other rule changes that have come up. And so we can really dig our feet into it a little bit and see how this actually is going to work. And we might not know for a while, but we'll see.
Well, and like you said, it'll be a nice full weekend for everybody to get all the rule changes, and maybe we can throw some polls out. So if you guys, we can throw some polls out to see. And, if you guys see them, please retweet them. Tell us what you think about them, because it'd be really interesting to see how everybody gets a full weekend of them.
I know, me too. I'm excited. And then also we are going to start having some fantasy football conversations. So registration is closed for our fantasy football fan league. We got a really good response, and I have already ordered the trophy, just so you guys know. There's a trophy that's coming. But
if I had good internet, it'd come right to this house, this farm. If I had good internet.
She blames everything. It's because she always picks a quarterback first.
Always, so we'll be back.
I know. We'll be back next Tuesday night, right here on YouTube at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.